What's up, Barflies and Bears fans? My name is Steven Zimmerman. Welcome to episode 3 of the Z Formation, and definitely the toughest one to date. I was going to start this week off with a brief synopsis of the game and just go into some details, but we all watched it, we all know what happened, and I'm going to talk about it enough answering these poll questions, so let's just get right into this. Remember, you can follow along with me and vote on these polls every week by following me on Twitter @RagingBearFan. So for the pregame question this week, I asked for Bear fans and Barflies to give me an under-the-radar player. The options were Leonard Floyd, Bobby Massey, Sherrick McManus, and Adam Shaheen. Before the game, I would have said Leonard Floyd. I expected a lot from him, and he played really, really well. He had 1 sack and also had a very strong performance in the run game, and he stepped up and played to a playoff level. Bobby Massey was kind of a dark horse candidate that I threw in this one. I figured that going up against the Eagles' defensive front with Cox, Long, Bennett, any blitzers they might throw, he would be a key player in that, seeing as he's had a pretty strong season so far after being disappointing in the past. So I wanted to see if he would step up and if other Bears fans also agreed with that. He had a strong season, but this game left a little to be desired. He was overall good in pass coverage, however he did let up one of the 2 sacks in the game, and because of that, he does get a little bit of a knock. Sherrick McManus has done an adequate job filling in for Bryce Callahan so far this season, but he was slow to an assignment on 4th and goal that led up a TD. Lastly, there's Adam Shaheen. And I don't know what to say about this guy. And the reason I don't know is because we just haven't seen enough from him still. We keep expecting things from him, and he has yet to deliver. He could be a major player. We keep hearing about his talent and his ability, and he just isn't stepping up and performing. It still might be too early to use the term bust with him, but next season should be a do or die for this guy. So in the end, the vote was a toss-up between Floyd and Shaheen. And before the game, I would have agreed. After the game, I felt like Adam Shaheen left a lot to be desired, whereas Leonard Floyd played a very solid game. Next question. After Khalil Mack, Eddie Jackson, Kyle Fuller, and Tariq Cohen were named to the All-Pro First Team last week, I thought this would be an interesting question. So just before kickoff, I threw out there, which All-Pro is going to have the biggest game? Fuller tied for the league in interceptions, and Eddie Jackson was expected to return from injury for this game. Khalil Mack seemed like he was starting to get hot, and Tariq Cohen seemed to be getting more and more involved in all the right ways. I expected a big day from Fuller, especially seeing that he was matching up against his former teammate in Alshon Jeffrey. Fuller had been truly locked down all season long, and there was no indicator that was about to end. On top of that, Foles really likes Jeffrey as a target, and that could have led to a lot of opportunities for Fuller. The vote picked Khalil Mack on this one, which is absolutely a fair decision. However, the Eagles did manage to contain him in pass rushing situations by chipping him, by using quick passes, and just kind of leaving him isolated. He still was incredibly effective in the run game, though. He just failed to get home to the quarterback. Overall, all 4 All-Pro players were somewhat of a disappointment. Jackson didn't play, Fuller looked dazed and kind of lost and kept falling down. Mack couldn't get to the quarterback, and Tariq Cohen only had 4 touches in the kickoff return. So moving along, at halftime I wanted to see some adjustments made. The play calling needed to change, and something had to give with the offense. And at the same time, Eddie Jackson was suited up and still just standing around on the sidelines. So I asked fans who they wanted more of, Eddie Jackson, Tariq Cohen, or Jordan Howard. Howard still hadn't gotten going, Cohen only had 1 or 2 touches at that point in the game, and I really want to know why Mizell and Cunningham were in this game. The top 2 guys couldn't get going, so why are you putting in the backups? The voters agreed with me and said that we needed to get Howard going. It still didn't happen, as Howard only finished the game with 10 carries and 0 catches. I'm very curious about why the Bears stopped using Howard in the passing game these past few weeks. He was doing fine and showed really, really strong improvement in that area of his game earlier in the year, but he hasn't been catching balls for the past few weeks. There's been something strange happening with these Bears running backs all season long, whether it's questionable usage, questionable play calling, poor blocking, trying to get to the sideline instead of putting your foot in the ground and turning upfield. And just when it seemed like this was all starting to get sorted out, they put up this game in the playoffs. The next question I asked was, when will Cody Parkey be cut? However, thanks to fellow barfly Jeremy Kramer, also known as Air Jer, who I'm sure some of you out there know, I'm going to bypass that question because it's just a stupid question with a no-duh answer at this point. Courtesy of AirJair, we have this question instead. Should Chris Tabor's job be in jeopardy? I absolutely think it should be 100%. Not only were the Bears ranked 30th in special teams this year, but special teams alone cost this team 3 games. When a football team only has 5 losses on the season and you can trace 3 of those games back specifically to one area of your football team, it's not a tough argument to make. The Bears lost to Miami, they lost to New England, and now they've lost to Philadelphia because of special teams ineptitude. You've got to hold someone accountable for that. The person to hold accountable right now is Chris Tabor. Unsurprisingly to me, nearly 3/4 of the vote agrees with that. The special teams unit was a strength in Chicago for a long time, and now it's the team's weakest unit by far. Benny Cunningham and Taquan Mizell should not be returning kicks. They're not fast, they're not shifty, and I can't remember the last time either one of those guys broke a tackle. Why did it take until desperation time in the final game of the season to put your all-pro returner as your kick returner? I think that Cody Parkey, Pat O'Donnell, and Chris Tabor should all be looking for new employment this offseason. On a more positive note, here's our next question. Did this game solidify your confidence in Mitchell Trubisky as the Bears franchise quarterback? Mitchell had a really good game in his playoff debut. And before I go any further and anyone wants to argue with me on that, I just want to say if you're counting almost interceptions as a stat, please point out to me where on the stat line it says almost interceptions. Because I'm pretty sure that's not a real thing. Back to the matter, he had no interceptions. No interceptions, 303 passing yards. Trubisky went off, particularly in the second half here. He finished the game with 303 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. In the second half alone, he put up 198 of those yards and that lone touchdown. He saw what the inexperienced Eagles secondary was doing in the first half, and he used it to his advantage when he could in the second half. He made the adjustments, and I don't know if it was coaching or if he was audibling at the line of scrimmage, but he still hit the throws. He was still making good plays and good decisions. Time after time, he was hooking up with Allen Robinson, and they both wound up setting new Bears playoff records. Going into this game, I'd seen enough from Mitch all season long to say that he was the Bears franchise quarterback. He's grown, he's matured, and he's elevated his game throughout the season. After this game, it seems like Mitch has swung the fan base too. He's finally done enough to win over the voters on this poll, with most agreeing that he convinced them he is now the Bears franchise quarterback. To finish off this week's episode, I put up a poll that I'm actually going to repost and just leave up all week. I think it's a good one, and I think it keeps this game in perspective. Straightforward and simple. Do you consider this season a success or a failure? All week leading up to the game, I had to remind myself that win or lose against Philly, this season is a success. The Bears blew expectations out of the water, winning 12 games in Matt Nagy's first season, and they won the division. No one saw this coming from the Bears. Well, almost no one. They lost 5 games by a combined 15 points all season. I'm not sure if that's any kind of record, but it's damn impressive any way you slice it. They led the league in scoring defense, rushing touchdowns, turnovers, first downs allowed, interceptions, defensive touchdowns, and I'm sure there's more stuff that I'm not thinking of right now. The Bears showed up on a level that we haven't seen as fans in what feels like forever. The loss to the Eagles sucked, and there's no doubt about that. It was gut-wrenching, abrupt, deflating, and downright depressing. But this team exceeded expectations. They set a precedent for how football is going to be played in Chicago from here on out. There's no more looking over the Bears on the schedule. There's no more run, pass offense. There's no more candy-ass defense giving up 50 burgers in back-to-back games. This is the new era in Chicago. So that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. If you liked what you watched today, please go ahead and hit that like button down below. Leave a comment. Let me know. Talk to me about some of this stuff. I'll try to hit back as many comments as I can. If you loved what you saw and you want to see more, hit the subscribe button down below. You can find all the Bears Barroom podcasts there, as well as on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher. I'm sure there's more ways to find it. If you want to stay updated with these polls, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at RagingBearFan. If you want to stay updated with your Bears news throughout the offseason, be sure to follow at Bears Barroom on Twitter, as well as checking out bearsbarroom.com for daily updates with videos, articles, podcasts, some pretty sweet swag, and a whole lot more. So until next time, Barflies and Bears fans, bear down.
You know you got to feel it. You got to feel